with a smooth front slide grind
Those are my
across
what?
the top of a wall.
I'll show you some of my
Caught
crystals.
and sent him flying.
One
The camera
crystal,
doesn't pick up the actual impact, but the
second
horrific
crystal,
aftermath is clear. When Gatlin shows up, his arm is clearly broken in 2 different places. He groans in pain as he examines his crooked arm, which is now shaped like the neck of a crane. His crunched elbow is pushed to the left and locked upwards, and his wrist is floppy and hangs down. Gatlin remains remarkably calm as his police superintendent grills them until an ambulance arrives. The paramedic makes a sympathetic noise, and Gatlin abruptly replies, "Yeah, you're telling me." He is loaded onto a stretcher with his arm extended to the hospital. Amazingly, he is not making too much noise, and they haven't even given him any pain medicine yet.
So yeah, I have
Number 5, third time's a harm. Aiden Bogas is
I have crystals, diamonds, whatever you need, I have, but I'm not giving them away yet. If you like and subscribe, I really appreciate it. And bye bye.
Pile of bikes and plastic chains that the kids had set up as an obstacle. He is supposed to jump out at the last minute, but he is going too fast and gets scared. They have done this 2 times before, but this 3rd time is much different. Aiden is filming alongside him, telling him to jump out. The boy ducks down instead and hits the pile at full speed. It launches him into the air. He puts his right hand out to stop himself, but it's far too late. His face smashes onto the asphalt below. The boy gets to his feet and bends over, hands on both knees, as huge dollops of blood pour over his lips onto the ground. You can see that he is losing a massive amount of blood right from the start. He tries to shake it off, but the pain is overwhelming. "I busted my teeth," he says while shaking his hand vigorously. He goes into his house for help. The video abruptly cuts out without showing any more. Number 4, the Carolina Reaper. That's the name of a dangerously hot pepper that YouTuber DSG411 just had to try for himself. To give you some frame of reference as to how hot this pepper is, the international unit to measure heat is called a Scoville. Tabasco sauce is about 4,000 Scovilles. This pepper is about 2 million. DSG411 says "F it" out loud and shoves the entire thing into his mouth. It's actually not that bad, he says as he chews. And then the Carolina Reaper hits him with his full force. He turns a bright shade of pink and pulls his hands to his face. He can't help it, but this move is unwise since he is only rubbing hot oils from his fingertips into his skin and eyes. "It hurts right here," he says, pointing towards his chest. And he says that his mouth is on fire. It has hardly been 4 minutes. 30 seconds later, his face goes numb. He is completely wide-eyed and scared now. He holds his hands out in front of him in disbelief. It's impossible for his chest to hurt this bad, he thinks to himself. By minute 5, he is already admitting his regret out loud. The numbness soon spreads from his face to his entire body. He is sweating uncontrollably and clenching his hands in pain, barely able to speak English. It's so hot that he can't even finish his own sentences. Just before minute 7, he is reduced to a gagging and sputtering wreck. To make things worse, there's a glass of milk to his left, but just before he drinks it, his friend admits that he puts laxatives in it as a joke. He can look at a tall glass of milk all he wants, but he cannot drink. It's pure torture. He finally turns off the camera to go lie down. In the description of the video, DSG411 admits that breathing became difficult, and his heart rate sped up to the point where it was skipping beats and painful. His entire face swelled up. He threw up blood, and he had a massive headache. Overall, it took him over an hour to sweat its effects out of his system. Number 3, Ninja. Nigahiga is a famous YouTuber who is always pulling off practical jokes and other funny videos. In this video titled Fruit Ninja Fail, he was ready to slice fruit in midair with a sword. You can probably see where this video is going, but if not, keep watching and you'll find out. So his friends are pelting him with fruits and everything goes well. He limps off camera as they prepare for a second take. Nigahiga is getting hit again by fruits of all sizes when suddenly a watermelon catches the tip of his sword and drives the blade straight into his face. He yells in surprise and hits the ground, bleeding heavily from 2 separate places just below the eye. His friends give him a cloth and tell him to put pressure on the wound. When blood continues to seep through, they try a feminine pad. That fails, so they hold a piece of gauze over his head and wrap it in bandages. Nigahiga is excited about his injury at first, and he announces that he is ready to try a 3rd take. However, the adrenaline soon wears off and the pain sets in, so he goes to the hospital to get looked at. Fortunately, it wasn't a life-threatening injury. If you look at his newer videos, you'll see that it didn't leave too bad of a scar. Number 2, falling with knives. There's a game you can play with a knife where you jab between your fingers in a crisscross pattern. The object is to go as fast as you can without stabbing yourself. It's called the knife game. The knife game is over when you either finish the song or accidentally cut yourself, but apparently nobody ever bothered to explain the rules to this guy. This startling video comes from a YouTuber named ZostopW. He is a master of the knife game and can go so fast that people often doubt his videos are real. To prove to them that the footage has not been sped up, he sets a ticking clock next to his hand and goes to work. The game starts out well at first. ZostopW's knife glides effortlessly between his spread out fingers so fast that it is little more than a sharp blur. His first mistake occurs at around the 30-second mark, when the blade glances the outside of his ring finger. He pauses for a second and goes back to playing. As he bleeds, the pain dulls his concentration and he makes a second mistake across the top of his middle finger. He redoubles his efforts and attempts to go twice as fast. Fortunately, this causes him to make twice as many mistakes. By the end of the minute-long video, every one of his fingers are bloody and slashed except for the thumb. The blood looks especially dark and thick around the first knuckle of his ring finger, which he has stabbed in the same place at least 2 times. At the 1 minute mark, he slices into his middle finger deeply enough to grunt. Amazingly, it's the first sign of pain that he has shown. He stops the video with no less than 3 deep slices on each finger. Number 1, Cactus Jeff. A few years ago, some crazy Aussies at a YouTube channel called Children of Poseidon attempted a stunt that was so insane, nobody has been able to top it since. It's called the Cactus Body Slam, and the video is exactly as painful as it sounds. It's clear from early on that this channel takes a cue from the Jackass series. The guy is named Jeffo instead of Steve-O, and he introduces himself in the same way as the MTV show. In this video, he protects his face with a head wrap, and he is wearing boxing gloves along with sunglasses. Other than that, there's nothing to save him as he dives off his car hood into a cactus that is taller than he is. The spikes on this massive cactus are at least 2 inches long, and they rip deeply into his skin. He hangs suspended in the cactus without making a sound for a few seconds, and then he lets out a wail of anguish that lets everyone know that this was a very, very bad idea. His body looks like it's covered in toothpicks that are all the way in. You can't help but feel bad for Jeffo as his friends pull the spikes out of him one by one. He squeals like a tortured pig as they work him over. He wants to pass out, but the pain is too extreme. No doubt you'll feel like passing out too after you're done watching these gory clips from their video. Before you go, I wanted to tell you about the giveaway I'm hosting. But first off, thanks for watching, and leave a like so I know you made it to the end of the video.